No serious research desk on Wall Street will put this number in writing. On the math, Tesla's self-driving network could eventually earn as much as $1.4 trillion a year in the United States alone. That is close to 15 times Tesla's entire revenue today, and all of it would come from inside one country. And here's the part that should stop you. Not $1 of it comes from selling a car. It comes from vehicles you already know, cars, trucks, and delivery vans, driving themselves and earning by the mile for most of the day, including the hours their owners are asleep. Now, 1.4 trillion is the top of the range, and it is an aggressive number, so take none of it on faith. It can be built from the ground up, mile by mile, with every assumption laid out in the open to argue with. And even the cautious end of that range, closer to 600 billion, would still make Tesla the largest transport company in the country. A trillion-dollar call ends careers when it turns out wrong, even when the math is sound, which is why the big desks stay quiet. So here is the arithmetic, step by step and exactly where it lands. Begin with something no one disputes. Americans drive about 3.3 trillion miles a year, according to the Federal Highway Administration, and that figure has stayed above 3 trillion since the pandemic. Today, most of those miles are served by privately owned cars, which is a strikingly inefficient arrangement. The average vehicle is parked roughly 95% of the time and driven only about 1 hour out of 24. For the rest of the day, it sits idle and loses value. That raises a simple question. Imagine those same miles served a different way, not by a car you own and park all day, but by a vehicle that stays on the road most of the day, working, and charges you less per mile. How large would that market be? Passenger cars are the first place to look, but they're not the only one. The economics only work if the ride is cheap, so start there. Tesla's stated target for the Cybercab is an operating cost near 20 cents a mile. That is a target rather than a demonstrated result, so treat it with some caution. For comparison, an Uber or Lyft trip costs you well over $1 a mile, and considerably more on short trips once you add the base fare and all the extra charges. Now, suppose Tesla charged you 50 or 60 cents a mile. That undercuts a human-driven ride by more than half, and Tesla still makes a healthy profit over its 20-cent cost. So the ride is much cheaper for you and still very profitable for Tesla. That combination is the key assumption behind every number that follows. It is also what would push people to stop owning a car. With that in mind, take each mode of transport one at a time. The first mode is passenger travel. Americans drive about 2.9 trillion miles a year in their own cars and trucks. The big question is how much of that ends up going to robotaxis, and nobody really knows yet, so look at it two ways. In the cautious case, Tesla handles about a third of those miles. At robotaxi fares, that's roughly $500 billion a year. In the optimistic case, it handles half the miles at a higher fare, which comes to about 1.2 trillion. To double-check that, look at ARC, a respected research firm. ARC expects Tesla's robotaxis to make up to about $1 trillion a year for the whole world by 2030. The cautious number here, just for America, comes in under that, which tells you it is realistic, not made up. The optimistic number here comes in above ARC's because it assumes America ends up leading the whole world, since Tesla starts here first and owns the software.
Passenger travel is only the first mode. Here is the key idea. Tesla's autonomy is really just one piece of software trained on more than 10 billion miles of real driving, and in principle, it can run on any vehicle Tesla builds. So look at the second mode, freight. Trucks cover about 300 billion miles a year on American roads, and trucking is a $900 billion industry, where the single biggest cost is the driver, roughly 44% of the total. That driver cost is exactly what autonomy removes, and trucking already struggles to hire enough drivers as it is. The Tesla Semi has just started production in Nevada, and even with a driver today, it already costs less to run than a diesel truck. Put the same self-driving software into it, which has not happened yet but is the plan, and freight could add another $100 billion a year, and more if it scales well. The third mode is last-mile delivery, the packages dropped at your door. It is a fast-growing market, and automating it could add perhaps 10 to 20 billion. The fourth mode is the robo-van, a larger vehicle Tesla has shown for shuttles and group transport, which might add 10 billion more. On their own, in miles and in dollars, delivery and the robo-van are small. The important point is that all four modes run on the exact same software at very little extra cost. So add the four modes together. The cautious base case is around $600 billion a year. The optimistic case, with every mode firing, gets close to $1.4 trillion. Hold on to those two numbers, but notice where they come from. Passenger rides are more than 80% of the total. Freight, delivery, and the robo-van matter, but they're side dishes, not the main course. So the whole estimate really comes down to one number nobody can prove yet. What share of America's driving actually goes driverless, and how soon? So what is your number? 10%? Half? Or none at all? And the year it happens? Put it in the comments and make the case for it. That argument is the real story here, more than any single forecast. Every number so far assumes robotaxis only compete for miles Americans already drive, but a cheap ride, comfortable enough to work or sleep in, changes which trips people take. Take air travel. Americans fly about 850 million domestic trips a year, and many are short hops where the airport and security eat more time than the flight saves. For a family or anyone who would rather leave at midnight and wake up there, a self-driving car that goes door to door starts to beat a plane. It will not win a solo cross-country trip where flying is cheaper, but on short trips, for groups and on convenience, it pulls a real slice of flying onto the road. Plus long trips people skip today because driving by hand is exhausting. None of that is inside the 600 billion to 1.4 trillion. It is upside on top. One feature here is genuinely unusual. The revenue does not come from workers. It comes from cars that would otherwise sit idle. An owner adds a cybercab to the network when it is not in use. It drives off and earns, and the fare is split with Tesla. A thing that normally only loses value starts paying its owner back. Which raises a question worth asking yourself. Would you send your own car out to carry strangers while you sleep just for the money? Some people can't wait. Others would never hand over the keys. And how that split falls across millions of owners is what sets the pace of everything here. This is also why calling Tesla a car company undersells what is happening. A traditional automaker sells you a car once. It collects a single payment, the price of the car, and then it has to go find the next buyer to earn again. Tesla's model flips that. The same car working in the network sells the same mile over and over. Run it 50,000 paid miles a year, and at the fares in this model, it brings in more than $20,000 every year for as long as it keeps driving. One sale becomes a stream. And a stream is worth far more than a single payment because it repeats without having to win a new customer each time, and it stacks across millions of cars. Ford and General Motors were built to sell a vehicle once and move on. Tesla is trying to earn from the same vehicle on the same road for a decade. That is a fundamentally more durable business than selling a car once. A market this large means nothing if the company cannot actually capture it. So here is why Tesla is well placed to. It starts with data. Self-driving is an AI problem, and AI is only as good as the data behind it. Tesla already has millions of its own cars on the road, feeding back more real-world driving than any competitor has ever collected. And that lead compounds. More cars means more data, better software, and cheaper rides, which brings even more cars. And because Tesla makes the vehicle, the chips, and the software in-house, its cost per mile can go somewhere no rival can follow, toward that 20-cent target. None of this is a concept video either. It is shipping. The Cybercab is in production in Texas, the Semi in Nevada. The cars need a human to take over less and less often, and paid robotaxi rides already run in Austin, the Bay Area, Dallas, Houston, and Miami. Ford, the entire company, is now worth less than what Tesla's value can swing in one strong week. One is priced as a maker of cars, the other is being priced as the owner of the miles. None of this is assured, and the top of the range in particular rests on aggressive assumptions. There are three main risks. The first is regulation. Autonomous vehicle rules are set state by state, and a single serious accident could pause deployment in an important market for a year or more. The second is competition. Waymo already operates paid service in 11 U.S. cities, and in freight, Aurora and Kodiak are further along than Tesla today, which does not yet have an autonomous semi. If competitors secure the most valuable routes, Tesla's share would be lower than modeled. The third is unit economics, meaning whether each trip is genuinely profitable at scale. If the software continues to need remote human oversight, both the cost advantage and the price Tesla can charge would erode. None of these removes the opportunity, but each affects its size and its timing. So where does the arithmetic land? On these assumptions, the base case for U.S. revenue at maturity is around $600 billion a year, and the optimistic case, with every mode contributing, approaches $1.4 trillion. Either number would make Tesla the largest transport business in the country. Numbers this size rarely appear in published research, not because the arithmetic is unsound, but because they carry professional risk and sit well above what most analysts will forecast. The gap between what the math allows and what the price reflects is where the whole opportunity sits. The right response is not excitement, but homework. Work through the assumptions, decide which ones you accept, and size it for yourself. That is what this channel does. Take a number the mainstream calls impossible and build it from the ground up with nothing hidden. If that is worth your time, subscribe so the next one finds you. One last thing. The content in this video is for reference only and does not constitute investment advice. All investments carry risk. Please make your own judgment based on your personal circumstances.